All right, everyone, gather round, because today we are diving headfirst into the world of One Piece theory.
And let me tell you, this one is a doozy.
It really is. We're talking ancient secrets, devil deals, the works. If you thought the Grand Line was wild, strap in, because this theory is going to make it look like a kiddie.
We're talking about a theory that grapples with the very foundation of the One Piece world, the kind of stuff that makes you question everything you thought.
You know that feeling when you're reading One Piece and something just clicks, a tiny detail, a throwaway line, and suddenly you're wondering if Oda's playing 4D chess while we're all stuck on checker.
That's exactly the feeling this theory evokes.
And today, we're going to our source material. Let's set the scene a bit. Imagine a world, right? Covered mostly in ocean, where pirates rule the waves, and a shadowy organization known as the world government tries to keep things in check.
They're the ones calling the shots, the big dogs of the One Piece world.
And they enforce their rule with the might of the Marines, those lovable, those guys with questionable morals and even more questionable haircuts.
But here's the thing. Within the world government, there's an even more mysterious group, the Five Elders, better known as the GOROSEI.
Ah, yes, the Gorosei. Those guys always look like they just smelled something awful, and it's probably the latest news about Luffy and the Straw Hat. What do you think?
Precise. They operate from the shadows, seemingly even above the celestial dragons, those descendants of the world government's founders.
And as if things couldn't get any more convoluted, we recently found out that there's someone above Ivar, or even the Gorosei, pulling the strings from the deepest, darkest shadows,
whose very existence throws the established power structure of the One Piece world into complete disarray.
Right, talk about a plot twist. And this theory we're diving into, well, let's just say it takes all of that and says, hold my sake, I'm about to blow your mind.
Because it suggests that the Gorosei, the ones at the very top, might have gotten their power from a source that's, well, let's just say it's a little less than.
They made a deal with the devil, didn't they?
Or, more precise, with a demonic entity that granted them unimaginable power. Power they then used to shape the world according to their will. Or perhaps email.
I mean, it sounds crazy, right? Like straight out of a pirate's fever dream.
You'd be surprised how many One Piece theories involve some level of fever.
True that. But the thing is, this theory doesn't just throw out these wild claims. It actually backs them up with some pretty compelling evidence from the manga.
Evidence that, when pieced together, paints a very different and frankly unsettling picture of the Gorosei and their true nature.
So where do we even begin to unpack this? Let's start with something that's always bugged. The Gorosei's uncanny ability to just shrug off injuries that would put anyone else 6 feet under.
Ah, you're talking about their apparent immortality.
Exactly. I mean, remember when Shanks just casually strolled into Marineford and Sengoku nearly had a heart attack trying to keep things from boiling over? Gorosei, cool as cucumbers, sipping their tea like it was just another Tuesday.
It's almost as if they're unaffected by the passage of time.
That's putting it mildly. And then there are their names, Saturn, Jupiter, Mars. I mean, those aren't just cool-sounding titles.
They're direct references to Roman deity, hinting at a connection to ancient powers that goes far beyond what we've seen with, say, devil fruits.
Okay, I see where you're going with this. But even with the immortality thing, how does this theory link that to an actual deal with the devil? It's not like we see them with pitchforks and goatees, making contracts with shady figures and smoky back rooms.
Not explicitly, no, but remember Brook's little side adventure during the time skip? He stumbles upon a group of villagers trying to summon Satan himself. Remember how they were going to use a specific type of magic circle?
Oh yeah. Those poor saps were trying to get some payback on those nasty slavers.
Yeah.
Desperate times, right?
Indeed. But here's where things get interesting. Those magic circles, they look suspiciously similar to the ones we see when the Gorosei gather for their...
Hold on. You're telling me those Fancy Pants meetings are less about world domination and more about demonic brunch?
Yeah.
Are they serving deviled egg? Because that would actually be terrifying.
Well, maybe not brunch, but you're definitely onto something. The theory argues that this visual similarity isn't just a coincidence. It suggests that Imu, or perhaps the Gorosei themselves, made a similar deal with a demonic to gain their power.
And they've been using that power for centuries to maintain their grip on the world. Now that's a plot twist for the age.
A plot twist with teeth, I'd say.
And fangs, probably.
Most definitely fangs. And you know what else this ties? The big one. The Void Century.
Ah, yes. The Void Cent. That giant question mark in One Piece history where the ancient kingdom mysteriously vanished.
And conveniently, all records of it were wiped clean. Like someone was trying to hide someone.
It's like they say, history is written by the victor. In this case, the victors really didn't want anyone digging into their past.
Precise. This theory suggests that the Gorosei, or at least the folks would become, played a key role in the downfall.
They won, not through superior tactics or even brute force, but through, you guessed it, a little help from their demonic sugar daddy.
It's a theory that, if true, rewrites everything we thought we knew about the events of the Void Century and the very foundation upon which government was built.
We're talking about a conspiracy that goes all the way to the top, folks. But before we get lost in the shadows of ancient history, let's shift our focus back to those mysterious Gorosei.
Because, believe it or not, their supposed demonic pact is only the tip of the iceberg.
Oh, there's more. I am both terrified and completely hooked. So we've established that the Gorosei are potentially immortal, possibly demon-powered, and without a doubt, shady as hell. But it gets even weirder because this theory doesn't just stop there. It dives deeper, claiming the Gorosei aren't just some random powerful figures who just happen to inherit their position. Oh no, it suggests they're directly connected to the very heart of the One Piece world.
You're talking about a direct lineage, connection going all the way back to the foundation of the world government. Remember those 20 kings who established it all those centuries ago?
Yeah, the ones who supposedly defeated the ancient king. Hold on, are you saying what I think you're saying? That the Gorosei are those original kings, as in the very same guys who defeated the ancient kingdom, made the deal with the you-know-who, and D have been running the show ever since.
It's a bold claim, that's for sure, but you gotta admit, it would explain their grip on power. And the theory actually lays out some pretty convincing arguments to support this. Remember those scars we were talking about earlier? The ones that seem a little too prominent for a bunch of immortals?
Yeah, you'd think after centuries, those scars would have faded. Unless
they were inflicted before they gained their supposed immortality. Think about it. Scars from the Void Century War. A permanent reminder of the battles they fought and the power they ultimately...
Okay, suddenly those scars seem a lot more significant. But scars can be, well, open to interpretation. You got any hard evidence to back this up?
How about a sword? And not just any sword, but the Shodai Kitetsu, one of the legendary cursed blades, said to be imbued with incredible power.
All right, I'm following. One of the 12's Sayo o Wazamono grade swords.
Right.
The highest grade there is. But wait, isn't that sword? Wasn't last seen with Kutoma. Talking about Bartholomew Kuma, former warlord, former revolutionary, he's definitely not a Gorosei.
Ah, but that's where the theory gets interesting. How did someone like Kuma, powerful as he was, end up with a sword as ancient and significant as the Shodai Kitetsu?
So you're thinking, there's gotta be a connection, right? Like for Kuma to have gotten his hands on a sword that old, that important, it had to have been passed down through, well, someone really important, someone with a direct line to those ancient times.
Precisely. It suggests a hidden lineage, a connection between the Gorosei and ancient artifacts, potentially even weapons dating back to the Void Century.
Weapons they might have used to defeat the ancient kingdom. This is getting good, but there's more, right? The theory claims there's even more evidence to support this whole Gorosei are the 20 kings idea.
Let's talk about character design for a moment. Each Gorosei member, with the exception of the newly appointed Garling, seems to be visually inspired by a real-world historical figure. And not just any, but leaders known for unifying their nations or ideology.
Hold on, you're talking Abraham Lincoln, Gandhi, those kinds of figures, those historical heavyweights.
You got it. We're talking Giuseppe Garibaldi, the man who played a pivotal role in unifying. We've got someone who looks suspiciously like Ignace Tai, a driving force behind Japan's liberal movement. These aren't just random design. These figures were chosen.
So it's like they're designed after unifiers because, well, they unified the world, at least under the world government. But instead of peace and all that jazz, they did it through what? Fear, attrition.
It's a chilling thought, isn't it? These figures, revered for bringing people together, reimagined as the villains of the One Piece world. It makes you wonder, are they a twisted reflection of their historical counterpart? Were they once benevolent leaders who, over time, became corrupted by the very power they sought to control?
Okay, now that's just messed up. Talk about a fall from grace. But it fits, doesn't it? This idea that the Gorosei, for all their outward power and authority, maybe they're actually prisoners in a gilded cage, trapped by whatever deal they made all those centuries ago.
Bound to uphold Imu's will, forever tethered to the shadows of the Void Century.
Okay, that image is both kind of cool and totally terrifying. But speaking of shaking things up, we haven't even touched on what happens after the river. Remember, the whole reason this theory is getting a second look is because of Saturn kicking the bucket and this new guy, Garling, stepping up.
Yes, Garling, the wild card. The one Gorosei who doesn't seem to fit the mold. His arrival throws a wrench into everything, and it's about to get very interesting.
Okay, so we've got these Gorosei, right? Ancient, potentially immortal, bound by some shadowy pact made way back when the world was still young. They've been calling the shots for centuries, pulling the strings from the shadows, but then bam, Saturn bites the dust, and this new guy, Garling, he just waltzes in and takes his place. What's the theory say about this whole power shuffle?
This is where the theory takes a really interesting turn. Remember how we were talking about the 20 kings and their impossible victory against Kingdom? Well, the theory suggests that it wasn't just clever strategy or brute force that won them that war. It was a gamble, a Hail Mary pass with some seriously nasty strings attached.
Okay, I'm picking up what you're putting down. We're talking about a deal with the devil, right?
Yeah.
Or, well, a demonic entity, to be exact.
You got it. The theory claims that Imu, in exchange for the power to crush the ancient kingdom, made a pact with a being of immense power, a being who demanded a steep price.
And that price was their soul.
Bingo. The theory suggests that Imu, in their thirst for power, sacrificed something more than just their moral. They made a deal that bound their very demonic entity. And as part of that pact, they shared a sliver, just a taste of that power, with 5 key allies, the original Gorosei.
Making them virtually immortal, giving them the strength to enforce Imu's will, to shape the world in their image. Centuries of unchallenged rule, all thanks to a little demonic boost. But where does Garling fit into all of this? It's not like he was around during the Void Century.
That right there, my friend, is the million-berry question. See, the theory suggests that Garling's promotion isn't just some routine changing of the guard. Oh no, it's something far more significant, something that's never happened before in the world government's 800...
And that means, leave me hanging.
It means Imu, for the first time in centuries, felt threatened enough to break their own rules, change the game they'd been rigging for centuries.
Okay, I'm officially hooked. So after all this time, after centuries of pulling strings from the shadows, what could possibly scare Imu so badly?
Remember a certain someone who's making waves, a certain someone who's the spitting image of a certain legendary figure.
Wait, are you talking about Luffy?
Think about it. Luffy, the inheritor of Roger's will, the one who's awakened as the reincarnation of Joy Boy, his very existence challenges everything Imu has built.
Because Joy Boy represents
freedom, liberation. Joy Boy is the antithesis to Imu's control, a beacon of light in the face of Imu's dark. The theory argues that this is what has Imu rattled.
So let me get this straight. Centuries of unchallenged rule, and suddenly Imu's sweating bullets because the good guys might actually stand a chance. That's poetic justice if I've ever heard it.
You could say that. And remember, we're talking about a power rooted in dark. Imu's power, according to the theory, comes from a deal with a demonic entity. And what happens when someone like Luffy, who embodies pure, unadulterated willpower, challenges that kind of power?
I don't know, but I'm kind of terrified to find out.
It's a classic battle of good versus evil, light versus darkness, with the fate of the world hanging in the balance. But back to Garling. Why replace Saturn specifically? Was he just not evil enough for Imu's liking?
Yeah, what was up with that? Did Saturn forget to file his quarterly demonic report or something?
It's more than just that. Think about Saturn's track. He failed, and failed spectacularly, to maintain order at the Reverie. He underestimated Luffy and the Straw Hats, let Vegapunk's message get out, and to top it all off, the ancient weapon Pluton was awakened on Wano right under his nose.
Someone wasn't paying attention, were they?
Exact. And the theory argues that Saturn's failings weren't just a series of unfortunate events. They were symptoms of a much bigger problem, a crack in the facade of control that Imu demands. Remember his reaction when Imu stripped him of his power? He was shocked, completely blindsided.
You'd think after centuries you'd have seen that coming.
The theory points to that reaction as proof that this stripping of power has never happened before. It was a first, a clear sign that Imu...
So Garling's promotion, it wasn't just about replacing Saturn, it was a message, and not a subtle one either. It was Imu putting the other Gorosei on notice. Get in line or you're next.
And Garling, with his ruthlessness, his unquestioning loyalty to celestial dragons, well, he represents the new order. He's the muscle Imu brought in to crack some skulls and make sure everyone remembers who's really in charge.
So if this theory is even remotely true, we are headed for some seriously choppy waters in the One Piece world. But I gotta ask, with all this talk about demonic pacts and ancient powers, can Luffy and the gang actually pull this off? I mean, how do you fight against something like that?
That's the beauty of One Piece. It's a story where even when facing impossible odds, even when going up against enemies with powers beyond our comprehension, there's always hope. Because in the world of One Piece, dreams have power, friendship has power, and sheer, stubborn willpower, well, that can topple empire.
Okay, I needed that. It's good to be reminded that even in the face of overwhelming darkness, there's always a glimmer of light. But stepping back for a second, we've covered a lot of ground here. What are your final thoughts on this theory? Plausible, or is it just a bunch of crazy spec?
Honestly, it's hard to say for sure. Oda, the mastermind behind it all, he's famous for his ability to weave these incredibly intricate narratives, full of twists and turns you never see coming. Could this theory be true? Absolutely. Is it outlandish? Sure. But more importantly, it's thought-provoking. It makes us question everything we thought we knew about the world of One Piece and the forces at play.
So you're saying there's a chance?
There's always a chance, right? And that's what makes theorizing about One Piece so much fun. We get to put on our detective hats, scrutinize every panel, analyze every line of dialogue, and try to piece together the puzzle that Oda's been constructing for decades.
And who knows, maybe, just maybe, we'll uncover a truth that even Oda didn't intend. But even if this specific theory doesn't pan out exactly as described, it raises some seriously interesting questions.
Absolutely. It makes us think about the nature of power, about the sacrifices we make in it, and about the cyclical nature of, and in the world of One, those are themes that resonate.
Well said. This has been a wild ride. a deep dive into the heart of One Piece conspiracy. And as we resurface, let's keep those thinking caps on, folks. Keep your eyes peeled for clues and never ever underestimate the power of a good theory.